Humans of the cardboard, welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today we're talking more Yu-Gi-Oh leaks. I don't know if you've heard about any of these rumors, but last time we covered some of the Yu-Gi-Oh leaks that have been running around the community. They almost all ended up being true, aside from some what appear to be fake Dark World leaks. But aside from that, we were like 7 of 8, and it's been really, really good. Looking at leaks, it's been really fun to theorize on stuff early, and we don't have anything as concrete as just like full-on effects revealed as far as these leaks go, but we do have 2 archetypes that have not been announced or shown or anything that have kind of been messed around with and leaked, that they are getting support in Duelist Advance, which is very exciting. So just as a little bit of background, somebody reached out to me who I talk with from time to time about leaks. He's just more in the loop than I am. He doesn't have any inside information. He just hears the leaks and then relays them to me. He had told me that he was the one who gave me the leaks last time and the time before. This time, he just said, hey, just so you know, new leaks going around. It said the leaks had been revealed a couple weeks ago and already got Monarchs and Psychics correct. This was revealed before Super Quanals got their support and said the other 3 archetypes are Super Quanals, Lunalights, and Herald Fairies. So we got the Super Quant stuff. We don't have to focus too hard on that. But these other 2 archetypes that ideally in the next couple of weeks we will get reveals for their new support is really, really exciting. So let's get into these. I want to just touch on each of these and just give you guys my thoughts before we get into the reveals that will come out, ideally, inevitably, if they've already been right about everything else. And the first one here is Herald Fairies. This one to me is the much more scary of the 2, just because of what this deck potentially offers going first. Just setting up Herald of Perfection is a nightmare. If you get in on Herald of Perfection, and by the way, Eva has been unbanned, I believe. So Herald of Perfection, lines that can end you with 3 to 4 fairies in hand. The game could just be over at that point already. And that's terrible. There is at least stuff like Typhon, I guess, but I don't even know if this deck is going into the extra deck twice to even turn Typhon on, even though Typhon could be a pretty clean out. But like, man, it's terrifying. And there's other options too, but like overall, it is still the kind of card that is like better have the out, or like your deck probably does not push through this. So it's the scarier of the 2. It's also scary in the fact that like the last time we've seen Herald of Perfection, it was seeing play, I believe, in Drytron during its original reign as like a terrifying deck. And since then, we've gotten Diviner of the Herald, which may have actually been together. But like still, like even as a more pure Herald variant, which is like what you might expect from more support, like this card could put in direct support for the card rather than like a Drytron card that also has other stuff, of course. Herald of Orange Light, is there a world where we get enough support here where you can actually play the deck with 10, 13, 15 fairies, and Herald of Orange Light is just actually awesome in the deck now going forward? That's something to keep in mind, because that's one of the most powerful hand traps. For sure, if your deck can play it. Ask Melodious players. Herald of Mirage Lights did not really see play back then, because that deck really wasn't about about fairies as a potential more pure Herald variant would be. And we don't know anything about the sport too in the terms of like, is it going to be 2 cards and it's not that crazy? Is it going to be 6 cards and it's like a whole revamp and now it's a full-on playable deck? We don't know, but like obviously we're just speculating here. Herald of Mirage Lights, this card's still really good. Even just generically being able to set up more like board breaker negate setup is kind of cool, even if you can't get all the way to like Herald. You have stuff like Herald of Arclight, which also has benefits, whether you can just send it off of other engines or summon it, have a negate, floodgate. If it gets outed, you also get follow-up. Still has its perks as well. And then, of course, some engines that I don't believe existed back when Drytron was in its original prime. Nadir's Servant is definitely one of those that's a huge, huge piece to consider. The fact that, sending stuff like Herald of Arclight and another card to get even more value is really, really, really strong. This engine has always been one of the best engines for ritual type decks. This would be a really, really scary one to keep an eye on. And of course, Voiceless Voice. This is probably the most recent iteration of just a really good ritual deck that's performed pretty well competitively. I don't know how well they pair together. I think that may be a bigger question of how the support ties in when it actually does come out, but it's definitely one to keep in mind for sure. And this is all of this on top of just the already generic, ritual stuff that already exists, like pre-preparation rites, preparation of rites. I don't know which one works better in this deck, but one of them has to. One of them works better in every deck, it feels like. That's ritual based. So for all these reasons, like this one's terrifying because their setup is just I win the game if I make this, and the game is now over kind of thing. So we'll have to keep an eye on it, but this one to me is the scarier of the two. The more fun of the two to me is LUNALIGHTs. I think they have more potential. I think they could be more fun. There's one specific question I have, but let's run through the stuff they have. They have a bunch of stuff already. When this deck actually was in its prime, I believe it was very close in time to when from when Shadal's got their newer structure deck around early 2020, I want to say, like right after Toss format. And this deck was going crazy. This deck was like a very scary combo deck during those times. And even though this deck historically has, in the anime and stuff, was supposed to be a fusion deck where you summon big, like, I'll be honest, the fusions are all pretty bad in my opinion from what I remember. They're all like big beaters that like have a little bit of target like protection and can attack a couple times. Like that's kind of what their fusions do. So when they got their support in 2020, they actually just kind of threw that all out the window and they just kind of became this like rank 4 / like generic link spam deck. And they did some really cool things like making Lambda and Time Thief Redoer under him to like trigger Lambda and search Gamma, to just search Gamma turn 1 and make it live, which is really cool. But listen, they have a lot of good cards. Kaleido Chick is like almost, is not quite Atlantean Prince, but it's like Atlantean Prince-ish, right? Right, it can send a LUNALIGHT as cost, to get to do things, which is really good because you have multiple cards in grave like Yellow Martin and Emerald Bird that do stuff in grave. LUNALIGHT Tiger, this is, by the way, a card that quite recently came off the ban list. So until recently, Konami thought this was a ban-worthy card. This card's quite good. It's a soft once per turn, I believe, in its pendulum effect to just reborn a LUNALIGHT monster. So if you can just keep getting this in rotation and cycling it, you can just keep reborning more and more LUNALIGHTs from grave and just get a bunch of material. So this is definitely a card to keep an eye on. You have stuff like Light Perfume, which just, if you can get it in grave, you can just banish it to special or to add a LUNALIGHT card from deck to hand. Very good. LUNALIGHT Fusion. This will be like, I know nobody played this when they played the deck in its better form, but this card does allow you to use materials from your deck or extra deck if your opponent controls an extra deck monster. So going second, it's kind of like Shadal Fusion a little bit, where going first is just okay, but going second, it's actually kind of good. We'll see. We'll see if the direction they push it on. And that to me is the biggest question here. Do they choose to, you have Serenade Dance as well, pretty good in grave. And then you have, of course, your fusions here. Like, look at this one. Your opponent can't target this card and it can't be destroyed by card effects. It can make a second attack during every battle phase. And at the end of the damage step of this card attacked. Let's see, a monster, you can destroy all special summon monsters your opponent controls. Is it a bad card? No. But it requires 3 materials and it does no interruption. So if you do not kill your opponent the turn you make this, I have a hard time believing that this deck is like keeping your opponent from just playing. Like modern day decks can just work around good protection these days. It's not enough. So where do we land on it? I guess the bigger question is, where does Konami land on it? Do they choose to kind of just give them maybe some new engine options and do like, a Lyrilusk thing and just give them a couple more engine options where they just get more main deck stuff, maybe some extra deck tools that aren't fusion based, and they just kind of can continue on more of that rank 4 / generic link based deck? Or does Konami try to, hard push them in the direction of their fusions and force them to become a fusion deck like they probably were originally meant to be? Konami may have just not seen the crazy, rank 4 spam coming, unfortunately. So I don't know, but this one's a little more intriguing to me because I do think at the time of what they were doing, it felt crazy. But I think for modern day standards, it would be considered weak, and they could even improve that and it still feel like a pretty cool deck. So I'm curious what they do. I really want to see where they go with LUNALIGHTs. I've thought LUNALIGHTs are cool. They have some cool cards. They have some cool interactions. They play out of the graveyard. We just need to see what direction Konami pushes in. I think that's the biggest question on them. But there you go. There's some inside information, I guess. I would expect LUNALIGHT or HERALD stuff to be revealed in the next couple weeks at some point. I don't know. Could be as early as next week. Could be as early as, or could be as late as the last week leading up to the set coming out. Who knows? But I would expect them at this point because they've already been right on 3 out of the 5 things. They're 3 for 3. So I don't know why you wouldn't believe it at this point, but keep that in mind. I'm out of here for today, though. Thank you so much for watching, guys. As always, let me know your thoughts down below. If you're a big LUNALIGHT fan or a HERALD, fan, or you just have some thoughts on this, let me know them down below. I'm curious where you land. Are you excited for this? Are you scared of these? I can understand being scared. Both of these things have been very scary problems in the past, and I get it. But I'd love to hear your thoughts regardless. So I'm out of here. Thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts. Stay tuned for more. Subscribe to the channel for all things Yu-Gi-Oh news and otherwise. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.